One of my favorite things in the world to do is watch Friends. I know it's been off for years and years. It's not even around, but I still find myself binge watching old episodes. And I was thinking about this today and thinking, it's the predictability of the friends in the circle, right? You have Chandler with his quirkiness, Monica with her type A of just everything has to be so neat and tidy and organized. It's Phoebe's ability to make you laugh at her silly songs. Ross always comes in with those smart comments, and Joey and him and his food, like it is just so hilarious. And of course, Rachel, she just brings everybody together, and it's just such this beautiful, cohesive team of people. And it's why I wanted to come on and share with you today that I have an opportunity for you to find your friends in the content creation space. So if you are thinking about creating your first or your next digital course, I don't want you to miss this opportunity because Amy Porterfield just opened the doors for registration for her Course Confident Bootcamp. And I'm actually offering a special bonus for anyone that registers for the Course Confident Bootcamp through my special link. So I want you to go to krystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register. That's krystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And what you're going to find when you get there is I have this special bonus private podcast series. It's called Money Mindset for Creators. So I want you to go register for Amy's bootcamp, download the podcast, and immediately start listening to it, because what this training is set up to do is to help you get your mind right about monetizing your content, making money so that you can fuel your content creation dreams. So go to krystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register for Course Confident. And I cannot wait for you to find your friends and find the people that will be there for you. Do you see what I did there? Yeah, nice little friends segue connection. Go to krystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And I cannot wait to see you inside. Okay, let's get into today's episode.
Hey there, quick question for you. Has 2020 shaken you up just a bit? Maybe you've realized the fragile nature of your job or current business. If so, you are definitely not alone. I've talked to so many in my community that feel the same. Over this past year, you might have found yourself wishing you had a proven path to a more resilient revenue stream, ideally one that lets you do what you love on your own timeline. Over a decade ago, I created my first digital course, and since then, the online learning market has taken off. And before I say too much, let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Amy Porterfield, former corporate yes girl turned successful digital course creator and host of the Online Marketing Made Easy podcast. I never could have predicted that my decision to create a course would mark the beginning of my journey building an 8-figure business. I definitely never could have predicted that 2020 would be the year digital courses became more popular and more important than ever before, with millions of people learning from home. This is just the beginning, my friend. The online learning industry is on track to grow to $325 billion per year by 2025. And there's plenty room at the table for you to create and sell a course based on your own unique brand of brilliance. You don't need to know it all, be a tech wizard, have a huge audience, or have a master's degree in teaching. All you need is a 10% edge, which I can almost certainly guarantee you already have. If you're curious or committed to finding out how you could create a digital course one time that you can sell over and over again for year-round revenue, don't miss the free masterclass that I'm hosting live right around the corner. This masterclass is all about how to create and launch a profitable digital course from scratch. And in it, you'll discover the 5 behind-the-scenes secrets to generate revenue year-round. Just for showing up live, you'll get a free resource to support you in building your email list of potential customers who can't wait to become your first students. I would love to have you there because I know just how life-altering this opportunity could be for you. Even if you're not 100% confident that you could really create a successful digital course, do yourself a favor and show up. I've seen too many incredible business owners surprise themselves with what's possible to let you sit on the sidelines. Worst case scenario, you'll decide a digital course isn't for you, and you'll still walk away with an incredibly valuable resource to grow your email list. Best case scenario, you'll realize this whole digital course thing isn't rocket science and that you do have what it takes. I hope to see you there.
Do you ever have moments when you're going through a journey that you are way ahead from just being at the beginning, like at the starting line, and you ask yourself, if I could just go back and tell myself to hang in there, or to reach out to this person, or to grab this resource, or to invest in this one thing, don't you have those moments too where I just wish I could go back and tell myself, I know you're a little hesitant to invest in this thing, but I promise you it's totally worth it. Well, that is exactly what we're going to talk about today on this episode, because I'm going to tell you the things, the tools, the resources, and the different ways that I would actually invest in my online business if I were starting from scratch today. So let's get right to it. Welcome to the Profit Podcast, where we teach entrepreneurs how to start, launch, and market their podcast. I'm your host, Krystal Profit, and I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for hanging out with me today, because if you've been trying to figure out the world of podcasting, think of this show as the time-saving shortcut you've been looking for. So let's get right to it, shall we? So like I said in the intro, today we are imagining that I am completely starting over from scratch with my online business, but I know certain key things now that I didn't know whenever I first started. So if you are listening to this and you are within the first year, the first 6 months, or even the first month of having an online business, you will probably find a lot of value in today's episode. And if you have had your business for a while, hopefully you hear about some tools and resources that you can check out that can help you take your business to the next level even faster, because that is my hope. My plan for this podcast is to deliver as much value as possible. And I've had a lot of new people come into the podcast community, and they are either starting a podcast and then they plan on growing an online business around their podcast. Like that is the center core of their business, is their show. And then I have other people who have an existing online business, but they want to create a podcast as the marketing arm to reach more people. So I understand the two different types of listeners that we have here, but I really want to speak to those of you that are looking for which tools and resources are actually worth the money. And there is no one out there better qualified to tell you this, because I'm the cheapest person alive. I didn't spend, I hear stories of people that spent $5, $10, $25, $50,000 on their online business to get going. And my heart stops. It absolutely stops, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's so much money to risk if this whole thing doesn't pan out. So if you haven't heard this about me before, if you've been listening for a while, you've probably heard me say this on more than one episode, but I'm a pretty risk-averse person. I went through Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University several years ago, and there's two camps. You're either a spender or a saver. And I fall into the camp of being a saver. I don't like to spend a ton of money. I like to watch my bank account very closely to make sure that I'm within budget on my expenses. And the income that I make sure that my expenses aren't outweighing that. So trust me, you're in good hands when it comes to investing in your business because I don't spend money on things that are frivolous. Every single expense in my business, in our household, has a very specific purpose. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't happen anymore. Like we identify it and we fix the problem very quickly. So the things that we're going to talk about a website, email service provider, podcast hosting, graphic design tools, and course platforms. And then I'm also going to tell you about some optional things. And a lot of the things that I'm going to tell you about today have free options that you can do, like a 14-day trial or a 7-day trial, or even you can use them, but it's kind of limited on how often you can use it. Or for example, I have a transcription service that I use that has a free version, and it's up to so many minutes of transcriptions. So we will get to that in a little bit, but I just want to tell you about the paid tools that I would absolutely invest in, the free tools that I still take advantage of today, and the ones that I would concentrate on if you are just getting started with your online business. So let's just dive right in. So first and foremost, websites. Now, when I first got started way back in the day, I had a website on Blogger. I say I had a website. I had a blog. It was not even a full-blown website. It was just a blog, and it looked awful. There's not a lot of features whenever it comes to Blogger because the whole intention of it was to be a blog, and Blogger was kind of founded in the days of text-only blogs before it was videos and graphics and all kinds of things, before Pinterest, right? Like everything on Blogger was very simple. And then I moved from Blogger to Weebly, or Wix is another one that's similar. I don't really like to use Squarespace as a comparison because I think Squarespace does have a little bit more customization ability than Weebly or Wix. But I realized with Weebly, I was very limited on my SEO for any of my posts and even for my website. And I was very hesitant to invest in WordPress because I thought it was a lot of money. And so just so we're clear, I'm talking about WordPress.org. WordPress.com is free and anybody can use that, but it is not the same. WordPress.org is where you have a self-hosted website, and it is literally a free-for-all. And I think it's overwhelming to a lot of people. I know it was for me. I was very resistant to doing anything on WordPress because the customization totally intimidated me. So if you're there, right, if you're like, I don't know, WordPress seems like a big step, I will tell you, it is the one thing I wish I would have started way sooner in my business, is having a website self-hosted on WordPress, simply for the SEO searchability and ranking is just so much better. It truly is. So if SEO is something that you're going to really concentrate on with your podcast or whatever you're doing on your website, then I highly recommend using WordPress. Now, WordPress is free in and of itself, but that doesn't include, like, I have a theme with my website. So I use a company called Themify, and so all the graphics and everything you see on it's kind of like you purchase I'm trying to think, it's like a template. I guess you would call it a template for your website, right? Because WordPress, if you think of it like this, it is a blank canvas. You can literally put anything you want in there, which can be very intimidating. It was for me. And so what I did is I purchased a theme through Themify, and that gave me the ability to at least start with something, and then I could customize how I wanted everything to look. So I highly recommend start with WordPress, and now you're like, okay, but what does that cost? So I have used Bluehost for the last 2 years. That is the hosting company that I chose to go with, and I love their technical support. They really helped me. I think it was last year, 2 years ago, my site went down. I freaked out because I didn't know what I did wrong. And I was like, oh my gosh, the whole thing's broken. It's gone into this black hole. I'm never going to recover it. But their technical support was so awesome in helping me walk through it. So I recommend them. So Bluehost and Themify are the two companies that I have used, and I don't typically like to recommend other companies that I have not used. So that's what I would use for my website. And the price varies on how much hosting cost, whether you pay for it monthly or for the entire year. That's what I typically do. So my theme for Themify was around $50 or $60, and then hosting through Bluehost.
Being a woman in business comes with its own unique set of challenges, but also so many opportunities. We get ahead by leaning in to what makes us different from business as usual. I'm Samantha Hartley, host of Profitable Joyful Consulting, inviting you to a special 6-episode series exploring the experience of being a woman in business. You want to hear from women consultants who've hit $1 million, who sell 6-figure engagements, or who've broken their own revenue ceilings? Yeah, those are my clients, and they'll be sharing too. Join me for 6 must-listen episodes that tackle key challenges for women consultants.
Follow Profitable Joyful Consulting on your favorite podcast app.
Oh gosh, guys, I should have had the actual number for you. I want to say it's between $200 and $300. I really should hang on, because I actually just charged me recently. So in real time, we're just going to sit here and look it up, because I don't want to tell you a number that isn't correct. So bear with me. Hang on one moment. I need my mom and I were actually talking about this the other day. I need to have one of those soundboards that has I'm beaming things up. I'm getting things going here. Oh my gosh, that was terrible, right? I don't even know what that is, but I am looking. Because like I said, I was just recently charged. I shouldn't try to do this and talk on this podcast, but here we are in real time. Okay, so my Bluehost hosting fees for the whole year was $216. So not bad, right? I mean, because that's for the entire year. It's not like they charge me that every month. It's for the entire year. I think that's totally doable, and it's something for whenever you're just getting started. If you think about it, all in for your website to have it, and for you to be able to do it for yourself and not have to pay a designer and do all the things, it's less than $300. Most of you will be able to afford that. I know that was kind of a stretch for me in the very beginning, but I decided that this is where I wanted to concentrate my dollars, because a website's a big deal. I mean, it's where people go to learn more about you and your business, your podcast, what you're doing. And so I believe that investing in your website is a very smart move from the very beginning. Okay, so we talked about website. Now let's move on to email service provider. So when I first started, I started with MailChimp, and I have to say I don't use them anymore, but I have noticed that they've really stepped up their game in the last 2 years, which is funny because that's basically since I stopped using them. It's like I switched, right? And then they were like, oh, wait, Krystal's gone. We have to step up our game. I'm totally kidding, right? Oh, how ego-centered was that? Yeah, right. But they have absolutely stepped up their game. I think that you can do landing pages through them now, and you can do a lot of other cool features that were not available when I left, which is one of the reasons why I left. So MailChimp is a great place to get started though, and you can use them for free up to a certain number of subscribers. I don't know if it's 1,000, I don't know if it's 2,000, but that is a fantastic place to get started. And I know a lot of you are interested in growing your email list. If you haven't listened to, it's episode 115 of this podcast. It's all about how to grow your email list with a podcast. I highly recommend that episode because it will break down all the things that you need to really get started. But I currently, to this day, use ConvertKit. This is what I started using back in November of 2018, and I love ConvertKit because it makes my life so much easier. And I just Some people say they don't like it because it seems kind of technical. And I will say that there were definitely times in the beginning where I was constantly watching videos, reading like help articles to figure out how to do things. But now that I have a handle on it, I wish I would have been using it from the very beginning, because I think I used MailChimp for about a year. And then I switched over to ConvertKit and I love it. Hands down, it's my favorite. It's the one that I always recommend to other people. So, but I do think that investing in an email service provider is very important because I want you emailing your people at least once a week. Like this isn't something that's like, oh, I paid for this email service provider and I don't use it. No, you should be using it at least at the bare minimum 4 times a month because you're emailing your list at least once a week, right? So email service provider and ConvertKit actually recently came out with a free plan. They did not have that before, y'all. I wish they would have. I think they had like a 14-day trial whenever I switched over to them and I saw how intuitive it was and easy to use. And if you have a different email service provider right now, they have tons of help articles on how to transition and import your contacts and all the things. So I highly recommend ConvertKit as your email service provider. Okay, so now we're going to move on to podcast hosting. If you've listened to this podcast, you know I love me some Buzzsprout, right? Like those are my people. I have never even used a different hosting platform because I tried them out. They have a free 90-day trial, which 90 days, right? Like that is a long time. And because I think it's like 2 hours a month. So I literally made sure every single one of my episodes were under that time frame to make it under 2 hours for the month because I wanted to utilize the free trial as long as possible. I already told y'all, I'm cheap, okay? I didn't want to pay for hosting services if I didn't know this whole podcasting gig was going to work out for me, which thankfully for you and for this show, it did because we wouldn't be sitting here talking today. But I believe that investing in a podcast host is very important. I know there are some free ones out there. I'm not going to even name them because I don't want you to think about them. I want you to go to Buzzsprout and invest in their platform because y'all, they have just come leaps and bounds since I've been with them for 2 years. They have invested heavily in creating a monetization platform within your Buzzsprout account. They have upped their game on stats and really helping you try to understand what your audience is doing and how to understand your audience's behaviors by what apps they listen on, where they listen, like which platforms, and so many other cool things. They help you with affiliate marketing, which I love so much, and they've come so far. So I highly recommend a hosting platform like Buzzsprout. And I think that they are worth investing in. If you are going to have a podcast, go ahead and have one that you rely on every single month and try out Buzzsprout. I'm going to link to the show notes. So krystalprofit.com/episode 185. Everything that we talk about here today will be listed there. Like I said, some of these have free trials and some of them have great discounts that I'm going to share with you. So be sure to go check out the show notes. Okay, so that's podcast hosting. Now we're going to talk about graphic design. And of course, I'm going to talk about my favorite tool, Canva. And if you have been in the online world for even a little bit, I'm sure you've used Canva at some point. Canva. It is incredible. And I have been using Canva. Oh gosh, let me see. I don't remember if it's 2014 or 2015, but I've been around for a while. And I'm going to share with you a little secret. I've been using the free version of Canva up until maybe a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. So sometime over the summer of 2020, I just now started paying for the pro version of Canva. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because some of these tools and resources that I'm mentioning here today are incredible, and that doesn't even mean that you have to pay for them. I have used Canva in so many creative ways to create graphics and all kinds of different tools within the platform. But it wasn't until recently I really wanted to start using something that they were offering, and I realized, okay, I have to pay for this. Well, y'all, I've been using this platform for 5 years. Like they have earned my money 100%. So I have no issues paying for them. But if you are just getting started and it's not in your budget, their free plan is absolutely worth it. 100%. It is so fancy. And I just don't even know that there's another tool out there that compares to Canva and all the functionalities. And again, this is another platform and company that is constantly evolving and adapting to what consumers are doing. Like they have templates for your IG stories. They didn't have that a few years ago because IG stories wasn't even a thing. They didn't have stuff for YouTube thumbnails and being able to do stock video and all kinds of, they just didn't have it. So I back them 100%. Try them for free. You don't have to have the paid version, but if you do want to try it out, I'm going to have a link in the show notes for you to try them out. So those are the top 4. And then the last one is course platforms. And then I'm going to talk to you about some other free programs that you can absolutely try. But the first 4 that I mentioned, your website, email service provider, your podcast host, and graphic design, those should absolutely be no-brainers because you're going to have a website to have a presence online. You're going to have an email service provider if you're going to grow your email list. You need to have podcast hosting if you're going to have a podcast. And then you're going to need a graphic design tool like Canva to make everything look great and honestly to help you promote your stuff on social media. I think it just makes life a lot easier. And now, actually, I just remembered Canva just came out with a recent tool that allows you to plan your content. There's a content calendar and you can actually publish within the Canva platform to certain social media platforms. It's so awesome. And I don't know if that's only on the paid plan or if it's on the free version as well, but go check it out. I think it's worth it. I can't wait to start playing with the content calendar because it's not something that I do a lot right now for my social media post. Sometimes I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants, but it's something I'm going to start looking into. Okay, now we're going to talk about course platforms. Some of these, I said earlier, I don't really endorse a lot of things that I haven't used before, but I know enough course creators to give you the inside scoop on which ones are the best. Even if I haven't used them, I have heard these companies, the names of them thrown around enough and so many great things said about them that I feel 100% confident sharing them with you here today. So I got started with my very first course platform. I used Teachable, and I think that they're awesome. They are fantastic for a beginner course creator, and even people I know that I've been following for several years still have every single one of their courses hosted with Teachable. It is a tried and true platform. It's great. The only reason why I switched from Teachable is I wanted more functionality with my sales pages, and I thought that it was a little bit more limiting than some of the other platforms. So that is the only reason why I switched. There's no other reason why I switched from Teachable other than I wanted a little bit more customization. And I moved from there to Kajabi. And I just switched to Kajabi, let me see, in December of last year. I signed up for their free trial. And again, I did this because there was a discount. There was like a massive discount. It was going away. And I thought, oh my gosh, I need to jump on board. And I knew that it fell within my expenses because I will say Teachable is a lot more affordable. I'm not even sure if they have a free plan anymore. I know they did way back in the day, but it's a lot more affordable. Kajabi is a lot more expensive. And the reason why is because it can be all in one platform. Like you could do away with WordPress and host your website, your course, your email service provider, all of that within the Kajabi platform. So that's why it's more expensive. But I went with them because I had a fantastic discount and because it was so intuitive and beautifully designed, and it has the capability for a mobile app. And I loved all of those things because I loved the idea that I can tell people that have my course or my membership, like, hey, you can just download the Kajabi app and you can access everything straight from your phone or your tablet or wherever you download the app. So I love that, but it's not something I recommend for a beginner. I don't. I think it's too expensive for someone that's just getting started, trying to feel things out and see, do I want to do it this way? Do I want to do it that way? But if you are interested, I do have a link to a 28-day free trial of Kajabi. So go look in the show notes, krystalprofit.com/episode 185. Or if you're interested in just going straight to the Kajabi, it's krystalprofit.com/Kajabi, Kajabi. And I want you to go check it out because I think it's worth looking at if you are at this point in your business where you're like, I do have a little bit more money to invest in a platform like it. Now, there's another one that's very similar, and it's called Kartra, Kartra. And I have several friends that have their website, their courses, and their emails hosted on Kartra. So it's very comparable. I don't know exactly like side by side how Kajabi and Kartra compare, but I do know that it is another option, and I think it's a little bit cheaper. So if you wanted to explore that as well, I'm going to link to it in the show notes for you to check it out. But another course platform is Thinkific. I don't have firsthand knowledge on how Thinkific works, what the results are, but I have heard the company thrown around so many times in the course creator space. So I didn't want to leave it out of the running in case somebody was looking for another option. So that is one that we'll link to in the show notes. And then the last one I'll mention is there are WordPress plugins that you can use for free. There's some that you can pay and put them on your website as a different page. And honestly, I don't even know how they work. Like if it's just like one specific page on your website, like someone has to log in. I don't know because I've never done this, but I have heard awesome things about WordPress plugins like LearnDash. And I actually came across this article that was super helpful. I'm going to link to in the show notes, but it's the best course plugins for WordPress websites. So I'm going to link to that in the show notes for you to check out if you are a WordPress user. Okay. That's a lot of information, I know. And if you're just like, Krystal, I'm walking the dog, I'm on the treadmill, I am folding my laundry, I can't write any of this stuff down, that's okay. Y'all know I put all this stuff in the show notes anyway, right? So make sure to go check out the show notes if any of these are interesting for you to check out. And then now I want to go through a few free resources that I live by and I love so much. So Asana is a project management tool that I think every single person should have. And I just recently started incorporating different members of my team. I have someone who helps me with podcast guesting. I had a project manager I hired over the summer. And so I can add them to my Asana projects. And actually, I have a YouTube video I'll link to in the show notes that shows you how to use Asana for a podcast content calendar. So if you've never used it and you've never been exposed to it, that is a great first introduction of what it is and how to use it. But I literally use it for every single project in my business. Last year in December, I sat down and I mapped out what do I want to do in 2020, which of course everything changed when the pandemic happened, but I at least had a game plan, right? And that's what it's for. It's a project planning system. And I've used the free version. I don't have a paid version of Asana. Maybe when I have a full team of people and we all need to exchange information and keep up with deadlines and all that stuff, I will. But for now, the free version works awesome for me. The next tool is Loom, Loom. And this is a great tool if you need to record videos and share them with people. So the idea behind this is I first started seeing this when our kids were staying at home in the spring for school. Their teachers started sending Loom videos like, hey guys, this is what we're going to talk about this week. And here's your Google Classroom. And this is what you need to do and see. And I thought it was fantastic. So I've used it a few times. I don't use it all the time. But what I did recently is I started creating Loom videos for my systems and processes in my business, and I save them in Asana so that whenever I onboard someone on into the business, they'll know where to find, like, here's how you upload a podcast into Buzzsprout, and here's everything you need to do on WordPress and how that works. So Loom is great for recording your screen, or you can record with your webcam, or you can do both at the same time. So that is a free tool. And then I have Canva listed on here. Again, there is a free version of Canva I highly recommend. And then Calendly is fantastic for scheduling podcasts. Oh my gosh, I loved Calendly. I used to go back and forth with my guest all the time. Like, hey, does Tuesday at 2:00 work for you? Okay, no, it doesn't. What about Wednesday at 11 a.m.? Oh, no, that doesn't. What about Friday at 2 p.m.? It was insane. And then I found Calendly. Someone recommended it to me, and I've been using it for at least 1.5 years, and it works awesome because it integrates with your calendar. Like, I have everything in my Google Calendar, and so I can just put days that I don't want to do interviews on there, and then everything just works. Like, as soon as someone says, "Oh, I'd love to be on your podcast," or I, get an email and we set things up, I just send them my Calendly link, and they can schedule themselves at a time that works best for them. And I also know that it works for me because it's incorporated with all of my calendars. I love it so much. So Calendly, and again, I'm going to link to that in the show notes. Another great free resource is the Creator Studio within Facebook. Oh my gosh, I love this. So I tried a few social media planning platforms, softwares, whatever they are, like I've heard of Planoly, and we tried one called SmarterQ. And I don't love these platforms because Facebook and Instagram give preference to their own platforms over a third-party platform. So I do everything in my Creator Studio. So you can go to facebook.com/Creator Studio. I'm going to link to that in the show notes. But this is where I plan all of my Facebook posts, all of my Instagram posts, and I do everything in there. They also have stats and stuff, but I don't necessarily dive deep into all that. I'm more concerned with being able to schedule and post on a regular basis. And now I'm going to go and compare that with Canva's content calendar, and we're just going to blow everybody's mind with our social media strategies around here, right? Okay, so the last two free resources that I want to share with you is Basecamp. And this is another project management kind of solution that you can incorporate with team members. And I first started using this with the Buzzsprout team. So I'm one of Buzzsprout's content creators, or I'm part of their creators program. And they invited us through Basecamp. I'd never heard of it before, but that's where we interact. We can post things. We can put GIFs in there. We can start conversations. We can share updates and news right in that platform. But there's also the ability to build out entire projects. And I had never used this before and then I started working with Buzzsprout. And then I actually was working with my book cover designer. He uses Basecamp. So we were going back and forth, exchanging images and thoughts and ideas, and it was just really cool. And that's another free program that I've really enjoyed. And then the last one that I want to talk about for free resources is Slack. And Slack is basically I think of it almost like an instant message. It's kind of like social media without it being like online for everybody to see. You can have just smaller communities of people. I was on the Slack channel whenever I was I was a B-School mentor for Amy Porterfield's bonus experience. And that's where we communicated back and forth with her team. It was a lot simpler than going back and forth on email because y'all know, emails can get lost very easily. But with Slack, I had the app downloaded on my phone. I had it installed on my computer, so I would get a notification. It's like, oh, someone just sent you a message, or there's this thread that we all need to chat about. And that was really cool. So Slack is great. I don't have a paid version of Slack. I've used the free version, and I think that it's a really cool option. All right. the last few little ones that I have to share with you. I know your minds are probably like, oh my gosh, Krystal, like this is so much information, but I wanted to give you all of the tools and resources that I use on a regular basis because I wish I would have had this information from somebody whenever I was first starting my online business. So these last two are related to podcasting. So Squadcast is the interview platform that I've been using for, I guess I started using it in April, I believe, of this year, March or April. I used Zoom previously. I used the free version of Zoom, but everybody knows, right? Like Zoom has taken on its fair share of new customers. And I didn't find it as reliable whenever the whole like stay-at-home orders were first set in place. So I knew I needed to switch to something that was very reliable. And that was Squadcast. And I'm excited because these guys are actually going to be on the podcast pretty soon. And I'm going to ask them all the questions about interview platforms and all the things. But this is a very affordable option if you are going to have podcast guests regularly on your show. And I don't typically have a ton of interviews, or I haven't because it's been the summer. I'm going to start ramping up doing interviews again. But Squadcast is awesome. It's fantastic. And I hear that they're going to be making even more upgrades pretty soon. So I'm really excited. It's very affordable. I'm on a plan where it's like $10 a month. So very, very affordable. And I'm going to have a link to that in the show notes. But then the last thing I want to talk about is Otter.ai. And I've talked about transcriptions before here on the podcast and on my YouTube channel, but they are just so important. And I think that as time goes on, that is going to be the thing that helps your podcast stand out online. And I want to just reemphasize that you can do this yourself. Because I know some people think about transcripts and they're like, oh my gosh, how in the world could I even get started? I don't want to sit down and read all of these transcripts, right? I don't want to make them perfect. I don't want to sit down and say, I have to have a perfectly grammatically correct transcription. I want to wash those thoughts away. That's just stinking thinking, as like my fourth grade principal would say, stinking thinking, get out of my mind. I'm getting better all of the time. I'm super good and I'm getting better. Oh my gosh, this whole theme music just from my childhood just seeped in. Oh my gosh, now I'm getting loopy. I've lost my mind completely, but okay. Otter.ai is my go-to transcription service. I used them for about 6 months before, maybe it was even longer than that. I think I almost used them for a year. And okay, here's a behind the scenes secret. Shh, don't tell anybody. Okay, don't tell. I'll eventually tell the whole world this, but I used Otter for most of my book. Okay. I used transcriptions of content I'd already created, and I used Otter to do all the transcribing. And I did that before I even had the paid version. So I love Otter. I think it is a true AI feature in that it is smarter than it was the very first time I used it. It used to always misspell my name and use it with a C, and now it's gotten smarter over time and it recognizes it needs to be a K. I think any, AI that can read this Texas accent deserves a pat on the back, because there used to be a lot of really bad words that were misspelled. And I'm like, I don't even understand what this sentence is, but I can go back and listen to the audio and think, oh, okay, I know what this is supposed to say now. I get it. But okay, y'all, that's a wrap. I know this was a lot longer episode than I even intended. I'm like, I'm going to get this done in 20 minutes. That didn't happen. But I think that your brains are probably exploding with how much information and how many tools and resources that I hope you're excited to check out. Over the next few months, I'm going to be doing more tutorials on the behind the scenes of how I use all of these tools. And I would love to know which ones you are most interested in. Do you want to know more about how I use my email service provider, how I use Asana to plan out my entire projects that I do every year. Like we're right in the middle of the Digital Course Academy launch. And y'all, I created that one in itself is a beast. It is a beast. I started that probably in June. And here we are in September, and it has just grown and evolved, but it has kept me on track and helped me hit my goals and hit my deadlines and do all the awesome things that I've been able to do over the last few months. So I love Asana, but I want you to tell me, join us in the Facebook group. So if you're not already joined, go to the Profit Podcast online community. You'll find a link in the show notes. So krystalprofit.com/episode 185. You will find a link to our Facebook group. Go join us there and tell me, what do you want tutorials on? What kind of YouTube videos do you want to see? What tools do you want me to share more about? Because I'm an open book, y'all. I would love to help you make processes in your business so you can be more successful. And I'm all about not having podcasters burn out. That is really my only goal in life with this business is I don't want any podcaster to quit ever because they're overwhelmed and burned out from their processes and the ways that they're running their podcast. But that's all I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If this is your first time tuning in, what a long episode, okay? They're not always this long whenever I'm doing my solo podcast, but this is one that I thought was very important to really dive into the tools and resources that I use on a regular basis. Again, go to krystalprofit.com/episode 185 to check out the show notes and all the tools and resources that I mentioned here. And make sure you go register for Amy's masterclass, How to Create a Profitable Digital Course from Scratch. You can go to krystalprofit.com/Amy-class or just go check out the show notes and all the information will be there. And I would love for you to subscribe to the show and leave us a review if you have not already. I would so appreciate that. And remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Hey, Profit Podcast listeners. Thanks for sticking around to a little bit after the episode to hear this special message because I want to hear from you. We are starting a new segment called Fan Mail Shoutouts, and I want to hear from you and I want to hear your questions. What do you want to know? What questions have you been dying to ask me? So here's how to make this happen. Go to the app where you're listening to this podcast right now. Go there. I'll wait a second. Okay. Now, once you're there, you're going to see a hyperlink at the top of the episode description that says, send Krystal a text message. And that's all I want you to do. Send me a text. It could be casual, informal. It could be totally anonymous. Or if you want, you can include your name and the name of your podcast or content wherever you are creating, and I will give you a special shout out in an upcoming episode. So again, go to the show notes for where you're listening to this episode right now, and it will say, send Krystal a text message. And I cannot wait to hear from you and give you a shout out in an upcoming segment of Fan Mail Shoutouts.